a drink of the plane.
That's cool. Very impressed.
I never knew they still did propeller planes.
They don't.
And that's the name of the plane there. The George Best.
That's the one to look for.
Well, we've just arrived in Paris, Charles de Gaulle Airport, and Scott's going to practice his French because we've got to ask for a receipt in the taxi.
That's right.
How do you ask for a receipt?
Puis avoir une reçu, s'il vous plaît.
Can't wait till you say that.
Hello and welcome to BitSocket. We're here in lovely Paris, as you can see evidenced by the Blackpool Tower over my shoulder, and we're here to cover Ubisoft's Digital Days 2013 event. This is where Ubisoft come to show off some of the new digital titles, some that you might have heard of, some that have only just been announced. We're going to get some hands-on time and see what's good and what's not. I'm sure everything will be fantastic. So let's just go have a look, shall we?
Well done, Mr. Scott White.
Oh, cheers Mr. Guillemot. We're here at Ubisoft's Digital Days and I've actually got an exclusive interview with the VP of Ubisoft right here. You heard it here first. We are
we're in the queue
for Child of Light.
This is going to be our...
I didn't realise you were recording that.
Yeah.
So you've got the very genuine...
I thought you were just taking adorable pictures of yourself.
I thought you were taking a picture of
You guys are so cute together.
I thought you were taking a picture of that.
No, yes, that guy's back.
Wait, just a question.
We're in the queue for the first game of today, which is Child of Light.
The demo is half an hour long, so potentially we could be in this queue for the next hour.
Yeah, so...
And we're only like 7th in the queue.
So at least we've come all the way to Paris, but at least we get to cover one game.
That's it. We're going to cover it really, really well.
Beware the night, Child of Light.
Ubisoft hopes it's not shite.
Child of Light is a new JRPG style game from Ubisoft, and they've put a lot of effort into making this game look bloody beautiful, haven't they?
Lots of games look good these days, but this is a really... It's quite a stunning looking game. It reminds me a lot of Muramasa.
Yeah, all those games by Vanillaware, those 2D sort of side-scrolling games, but still have that 3D sort of depth effect to it. It looks beautiful. But it's all about the gameplay, isn't it? And what the mechanics like.
They're good. I quite like them. It's a co-op kind of RPG experience. You've got a bit of exploration, a bit of flying about. One of you goes the Child of Light. The other one goes a wee ball
of light.
A ball of light.
For me, for JRPGs, for role-playing games in general, it's all about the fighting, and this game makes all the best references because the fighting system is pretty much lifted straight from Grandia 2. You've got a kind of timeline bar down the bottom which shows you and the enemies on it, and when you get to the end of it you can make a move, and then it takes a wee bit of time before the move actually happens, and in that time the baddies can cancel you and you can cancel the baddies. It's brilliant, it works brilliantly, it works just the same way as it does in Grandia 2, but it's got a little bit more sort of random nature to it sometimes, and that can get a wee bit irritating, but it definitely looks like it's got the best foundations to build on, because it's got great art style and it's got a great foundation in that combat system as well.
Good and solid.
Looking forward
That's
to
what
it.
you want.
Hope it's not shite.
Child of Light.
Well, that was Child of Light, and it was a really beautiful wee game actually. Quite liked how the battle system was inspired by Grandia 2, one of our favourites, as you can tell from our JRPG month. Only problem is that we were both pish at it. Even though Scott was trying to help me by blinding the enemies, he ended up mistiming it, and I ended up dying. Still, it's a really enjoyable game, and I'm looking forward to Child of Light coming out next year.
Here we are, we're here interviewing in another BitSocket exclusive, the lead character of Watch Dogs. What's for us all there? So here we have our first hands-on with Watch Dogs, one of the most anticipated games of this year. That is if you're ignoring Grand Theft Auto 5, which, let's be honest, if you're making another open world game this year, you're going to have to ignore it pretty hard. But, I mean, I've been quite looking forward to this. It's been looking quite exciting and definitely a different kind of approach to open world experience. And that's certainly what I felt going into it, but
I've not been quite so fussed by it. Still, I'm willing to be surprised, so let's see how it plays. So, Watch Dogs, we played it together. Me using the iPad and you using the controller.
yeah.
And pretty much it was like a game of cat and mouse. He was racing around and I was trying to stop him by setting off like steam pipes.
It wasn't really cat and mouse. That would indicate a challenge, which Joe didn't give me.
I've got to say, my attempt at controlling the law was pitiful to say the least.
Joe is not the law.
I know.
In this case,
I'm no Judge Dredd.
Hey, there he is!
Watch Dogs itself, though. Let's talk about that because
Yourself?
I mean, I'm still a bit sceptical. I still think it looks like in the same year like Grand Theft Auto 5's coming out.
in this, the year of Grand Theft Auto 5.
That's the year of Luigi, but no, I've always kind of it looks kind of like a bowling version of Grand Theft Auto 5. Now the driving's really good in it though. Like this is my first time playing it, and the driving's really spot on. Like the handbrake, it feels really good.
Some of the bits were quite cool, driving through and you see a locked garage and you can, as you're going towards it, you unlock it, you unlock the other one and you create shortcuts and I think
the whole hacking thing, I tried to have a wee shot at the hacking thing, like hacking folks' phones and stuff like that. It didn't work for me, you know.
again, this is just, I did and it worked quite well, but again, it's a demo. I mean, I'm looking forward to it when it comes out. I've pre-ordered it, so I better look forward to it.
I'll be playing GTA 5 in this, the year of Luigi.
So here we are, we've actually secured quite an exclusive interview. It's an interview with the bike from Trials. And there you have it, straight from the Iron Horse's mouth.
Well, that's Just Dance there, Scott. You want a wee dance?
No.
We're in France, the land of fine cuisine. The man's wearing a fancy chef's hat. What are we eating?
Hot dogs.
Can't wait. What are you eating? Oh, this. I thought that was a hot dog with stuff inside it, but it's like bread or something. Tuna. It's not nice. I don't like tuna. What's that you're eating?
It's a hot dog in a brioche bun, ketchup, mustard and...
En français.
Le hot dog, c'est brioche, c'est mustard et ketchup.
Right, we're sitting in a beanbag and we're going to have a wee shot at this new Rayman game, Rayman Fiesta. I've not been talked through it yet, so I don't really know what I'm doing. What do we do? Well, it's another one of those kind of straightforward platforming games, really pared back, simple controls, but I'm rubbish at it. Now I'm just going to have to try and get out of this beanbag.
Right there, one of the main buttons.
What is it?
So that's one of the main buttons on this. This is the Rabbids Big Bang game. Is the spend your money button. Spend your money. That's just...
And how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the fact that this game's major button is to spend money?
Let's just see what I can get.
Well, as you know, I'm your man for racing games here at BitSocket, and this one here, The Crew, is one that I'm very interested in. It's got a massive game world, 5 US cities, takes about half an hour to get from one end of the map to the other. But size isn't everything, or at least that's what Scott tells me. I got a 10-minute shot of this game. 10 minutes in what's meant to be a massive world to race about in. Obviously, I didn't get to see much of that world, but my playtest did allow me to learn what the most important thing, the handling, was like. And it's not what I expected. Real cars, real roads and all that made me expect a sim, but The Crew is pretty arcadey, with twitchy steering and nitro boosting. That's not a bad thing though. I love arcade racing games. It just meant that when I took my first corner, I ended up skating off the road and spending ages trying to get back on, embarrassing myself in front of a room full of people. I do think the Crew has a bit of an identity crisis though. If you don't know what it is, the name, The Crew, makes you think it's an open world crime game like Grand Theft Auto. Then you get into it and realise it's a racing game. Then you get more into it and it turns out to be a crime/mission game with takedown missions. What I played was great fun though. Bombing down a beachfront with nitro blasting out, skidding through a desert, all of that was pretty cool, and it's always nice to see a new arcade racer, something that's sadly becoming a dying breed. It looks like it might not be Burnout Paradise, but it certainly impressed me a lot more than Ridge Racer Unbounded.
Here we are at Valiant Hearts, The Great War. Now this is another one of the big new titles that Ubisoft have announced. Sadly today it's hands off, but we are getting a wee guided playthrough from one of the game's developers. So let's just have a wee look and we'll show you what it looks like.
This is the story of 4 strangers who would somehow come to help a young German soldier find his love.
Valiant Hearts is a weird game to talk about. Full disclosure here. Obviously it was one of the games that hadn't been announced before we went in, and we kind of stood around with lots of people, and Ubisoft showed us some trailers, and then comes on this very kind of quiet trailer about World War I trench warfare, and you're thinking, what's this? This is a very obvious, a very different tack from those. And I'll be honest, by the end of the trailer, I was actually getting quite emotional. I was actually feeling a wee bit upset.
Some made it. Some did not.
The only limitation I think so far that I've seen, what they showed of the game was very simple to play from lots of things. Now obviously it was an early part of the game, so it was quite tutorial based. You know, it was, you can press this button to do this, you can do this, you know, it's very obvious and signposted, so it might get more complicated as it goes on. But you have to hope that the puzzles will become more complex and more sort of taxing as it goes on. But then maybe that's not the focus of the game, maybe the focus is just a story. And you know, I am cool with that.
I think that's the one thing. I think that will be the big thing, because for me it looked a lot like Machinarium. I never know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Because it is almost like a point and click adventure, but you're kind of interacting with the environments more. And I mean, what we saw of it, I mean, it looked great, but again, we saw very early gameplay for it. So I think it will. I don't think it's going to be one of those games that you're just going to be like, oh, for God's sake, I can't figure this out. I think it's going to be more like kind of just a nice kind of a game like Portal, for example. It was hard at times, but the solution was always there. You're never too stuck for too long, and that's what I'd like it to be. Just something that kind of keeps you going, is compelling, mixes a great story, bit of humour, without being too frustrating. Because this would be the ideal game to show to see somebody that's just no interest in games. These are the kind of games that you show them, and they actually kind of kind of show that. What's that about? And it's certainly not a topic that's often covered. I mean, World War I games, there's certainly not a lot of them, and I don't think there's many World War I puzzle games.
Now one thing that appeals to me quite a lot in it though is the American soldier being able to punch down blocks of wood. I think he's going to be my favourite character.
I don't know, the French guy battered some things with his ladle, so that was quite...
But whether or not the gameplay ends up being a bit more interesting or not, it certainly looks like a very admirable game, and that's something to be happy about, that there's games like this being made. So we're really looking forward to hear about Socket.
Definitely.
Well, that's the end of our time here in Paris.
That's right, we've played quite a few games.
Yeah,
Played
Watch Dogs, The Crew,
Child of Light.
had a wee look at Valiant Hearts. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting games coming up. There's also a couple of predictable ones as well, like Assassin's Creed coming out in HD, surprise, surprise, that kind of thing.
But certainly it's been good fun, certainly seeing some of the games that are coming, and it's a great way to meet loads of folk and just talk about how bad we are at games, because
oh man, we suck.
Very bad at games. I mean, you could even play Rayman on the iPad, and that's for wins. That's for kids. But it's been good fun, and just remember to I think the French, we like the French for this, to keep bisokiti. Bon.